welcome everybody. This is Heather Riggs with the New England Museum Association. Welcome to our July Lunch with NEMA. I hope you guys are all in an air-conditioned building right now. It's kind of warm out there. So I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So if you just want to type in the chat feature where you're calling from, what museum, just to let us know you're here, that would be great. Awesome. Everybody's starting there. So if you haven't attended a Lunch with NEMA before, this is actually going to be how you're going to be interacting with our speaker today. So if you have any questions at all at any point in the presentation, go ahead and type them in the chat feature, and I will interrupt Lynn and ask the questions for you. Oh, great. We have people from all over. Awesome. Glad you guys can hear me too. That's always a good thing. And also to let you know that we are recording the session today, and hopefully it will be available on the NEMA website later on today. So I think we have a good group going, so you guys are getting used to the chat feature there. So I'm going to turn it over to Lynn today so she can go ahead and talk about the custom touch. She is the visual development specialist at Hansa Color. She's also a NEMA business member and will be attending the NEMA conference this fall in November in Mystic, Connecticut. So Lynn, it's all you.
Thank you so much. Welcome everybody. I hope I can keep this entertaining and light. As I've gotten to know so many museum specialists, curators, and designers, I'm realizing that to do your occupation and to do your job well, you need to know some about some of the printing things that are going on right now. So I thought I would talk a little bit in depth about some of the things that our company offers. However, it's not an advertisement for me. It's just to make sure that you're aware of some of the things that you could bring into your museums. So with that, let me introduce myself here. In my role, I work with museum staff. I also work with the curators and designers, and sometimes they can be at cross points, as you well know, and sometimes not. My own degrees are in literature and education, so I'm kind of a misfit, but luckily or unluckily, I was the daughter of a family that loved history, and we would travel from Fort Lauderdale all the way up to New England every year for our big summer vacation, and my dad would get bored if we didn't take a different route. And every time we took a different route, that meant we went to different museums or Civil War and Revolutionary War battlefields, so I really got to know the industry very well from a visitor's standpoint all the way from a small child all the way up. So in talking about museum branding, many people get very confused about branding, marketing, strategies, and they think it's all the same thing, and it really, really isn't. In taking this role, one of the things that I had to learn very quickly was the big difference in that. When you're talking about a museum, obviously, you need to stand out above the rest of the crowd to try and keep enticing visitors not only to come in the first time, but then to come back in over and over again to see the new exhibits, to see the special programs that you're offering to them. So when we're talking about branding itself, this is about what you are. It's about the reason that you are, why you even exist, why the federal government, the state government, the city government were able to give you money to create this business. And it's important to outwardly and openly offer that communication and that message. You don't want people to come in trying to read your mind and say, not sure what this museum is, but it might be interesting. You don't want it to be like that. So a museum branding is actually your base. It's what you have. It's the reason you unlock that door every day, hoping that you'll entice more and more customers to come in, and so that when they walk in, it's not a big surprise. Just imagine if you have 5 children and you walked into a science museum and, oops, sorry, no touching. It's everything's behind glass case. It would be a big, big, big mistake, especially if you had already warned the children that they could touch everything, and it's like a Discovery Museum. You can do whatever you want, and wham. So even as you're driving up to the building, it's really, really important to have that branding out there so that there isn't a surprise. Now, the marketing is the fun extra stuff. You've built that base. You know what kind of museum that you have, and you've been able to showcase that to the public. Now, what is the extra stuff? The extra stuff is that brand new exhibit that you've been working on for 6 months. You want to make sure you advertise it. You want them, the public, to be excited about what you're going to offer. It may be that you just redecorated, did a major overhaul on the museum store, and now there will be more kid-friendly things in there. Or it may be that you now have more printable relic type things that you want people to have. Or it could be about the summer family programs. You're trying to entice whole families to come in and be a part of your museum. It's all the changes that you've created in your museum or the things that you're trying to highlight. They're the selling points. That's what a marketing program would be. When we're talking about marketing, there are different ways that a museum can market. Of course, I don't even need to say out loud because so many of you I've met on LinkedIn and in Facebook and Instagram, and so social marketing is so fantastic. And all I have to say is 2 words: Pokemon Go. Look at what's going on with that crazy app and that crazy game. Some museums are getting a raise in amount of spectators during the summer. Others are not so happy with it. But there again, you could market that one app and just imagine what you could do. And then, of course, we also, as an industry, would also market in mass communications, in television, in newspapers, radio, magazines, and the wonderful Internet. But the kind of marketing that I'm going to be talking about today is the static marketing or the static products. And that's the kind of things that you would print, that you would tack up, that you would write in on a chalkboard or a white erase board. It's the kind of things that you would market these things inside your museum and in the perimeter as well. Now, the screen that you've got in front of you is a fake reception area, and I have to tell you, when I came up with this idea for this lunch with NEMA, I went into our graphics department and I said, I don't want this to be about me, and I don't want this to be about what we've done as a company. I want to show ideas of what you could do in a museum. So they came up with this great museum of sound, and I have to tell you, I really want to go see this museum when you see how colorful and bright it is. So keep this in mind. The Museum of Sound, no such animal. If it looks like any museum you've ever seen before, I do apologize. We took the photos and things off of Dreamtime, so some of this may be very familiar to you, but I just want to let you know that this also is a museum that had no holds barred when it came to their budget. So keep that in mind, and I am keeping that in mind with you. But I just want to highlight areas that may have been lost before in the shuffle, or you've never thought about with using that as part of your marketing within the museum. So with no further ado, let's go outside. You've got a family of 4 driving up to your museum. They're all in the big minivan. And here we are. We're ready to go in, and you drive into an empty parking lot. There's other cars there, but there's nothing about the museum in the parking lot. And you actually wonder, did I park in the right area? Is this where I need to be? As you're walking up to the museum, lo and behold, there's no banners, there's nothing. Many museums have been like that in the past because A, they didn't think that area was important, or they didn't put as much importance on that area, and B, they ran out of money. They were too busy making those fantastic exhibits, and they let some of this other stuff go. I'm going to be blunt. some of this stuff you can do it yourself, and some of it you can't. So when you're looking around at other museums and the way that they market and brand outside, you know, keep that in mind, because there are some things that you can do yourself. You've got groundskeepers, you've got graphic staff that you could do yourself. So I'm just opening eyes, okay? So let's start. I'm going to start with the Montefiore Medical Center. This was a job that we did, and the reason that I want to show this to you is that is what a pole banner looks like. A pole banner can do whatever you want. Montefiore had this brand new mission statement, and they wanted people to realize all the things that they would do for their patients as you walked into the building. So the banner that you see in front of you says to heal. Well, obviously they're a medical center. But the reason that they did this was as you walked closer and closer to the building, each banner had a different area that they wanted to highlight. So this one slide really shows very well, I feel, what a pole banner is. A pole banner can be used on a walkway. It can be used mid-campus. It can be used in a parking lot. It can be even used as you drive in the long entranceway. I've seen them used all over that way, all over New England. Wilbraham Munson is an old academy up right outside of Springfield, and I just had finished some pole banners up there, and what they did was they have updated their logo, and they wanted to update all the signage throughout the campus. It looks spectacular, but they're up in the middle of a pretty flat area, and they get really hit with wind. So they needed to update, but they also needed to be wary of how things would deal with weather. With a pole banner, as you can see, the pole banner that you have in front of you, one is narrower than the other. It goes by what hardware you have on the pole. Pole banners also, keep in mind, can also be printed two-sided or one-sided. There's all different variations. This screen that I'm showing you now, banners can be hung sideways. They can be hung lengthwise. The one up at the top is a series of banners that were done for a university. And as you go into their main entrance, these three big banners are hung. If you've gone through any local malls, you probably have seen some large banners highlighting new stores or highlighting different programs that a mall is going to have. On the right-hand side, you see a different type of pole banner. The pole itself is the building. So the same hanging apparatus that you have for the banners are hung to the side of a building. And these banners, all you would need to do is go up in either a cherry picker, or you would be able to go up come out of the windows with some of these and just hang them right on the poles. The one on the bottom is another single pole banner that shows you a one-sided presentation. Okay? Vinyl or cloth. Well, you can go with two-sided or one-sided, whether you use vinyl or cloth. Many companies are now able to print on one piece of fabric two-sided so that you don't have to have two panels sewn together. The material they use has attributes that go white, black, white, and that black is actually a blocker so that you can print it double-sided and the other side won't show through. In the past, up until recently, you used to have to do one piece and then the second piece and then sew it together. Now we're lucky in this industry that we do have that blocker built in the middle, which, some companies, depending on how they'll quote you, they might quote you as if you did two pieces or not. It's up to each one. But the nice thing about cloth is that it does print a little bit clearer than vinyl does. It really does. It also, you can use a material called Sunbrella, which makes it waterproof and weatherproof. Sunbrella is what you would normally see if you were to see market umbrellas, or awnings are made out of Sunbrella, so it is weatherproof. The vinyl, it goes without saying, it is weatherproof. If I have two pieces of fabric sewn together and I have them up on a pole banner, when the wind hits it, it acts like a barrier to the wind, and it can really take a beating. So it's very important when you have two pieces of fabric to actually have wind slits cut into it. With vinyl, you don't need to do any reinforcement. You can just cut the slits. Obviously, with fabric, you don't want it to unravel or to come apart there, so you would have to sew. It's almost like an eyelet that you would make for a shirt so that it doesn't unravel there. Now, when we're talking about weather-related issues with banners, especially in New England, you do have everything from this 90-degree heat that we're all suffering with right now up to sub-zero temperatures. It depends on your fabric or the make of the banner, what you're going to be doing with it. If you've got a banner that you're going to leave up all year long, you're going to have some issues. One of the main things, once again, I'm showing you that lovely banner from Montefiore. I realize it's in New York. I apologize. But if you were to zoom in, you would see there's something funky on that pole where the pole banner hardware is meeting the pole. And they're little hinges so that literally if the wind were to hit that banner hard enough, it would be able to give and take with it. That helps so much with the wear and tear of the banner, whether it's vinyl or fabric. It really helps quite a bit. And by doing that kind of a presentation with the hardware, you will get a longer life out of your banner. I've done some research back and forth because when you're talking with customers, you want to be able to talk to them about which is a better, money saver for the museums. It's really important to look at the hardware and at what you're going to be doing with your banner. If I'm putting up a banner for a year because it's their big 250th anniversary, it's only going to be up for a year, so it's not going to be as important. If I'm a museum and I'm trying to save some money and I want to keep it up because I'm talking about the branding of the actual museum to entice people as they come in, then guess what? I'm going to keep that up 2 or 3 years. So at that point, it's really more important than ever to talk about that hardware and to make sure that you've got the appropriate hardware on your banner. Another thing, too, I was talking to my own production people, and they suggested that I talk about the grommets. Now, the Montefiore, you can't see any little circles on here, but if I had sold this job and wanted to talk to somebody about keeping it on there all year long, I might want to put a grommet on the material itself and then do either a zip tie or a chain or some kind of a rope as just an extra added security to make sure it stays on that pole. Because if you look, it just slips on and off. It's very easy to. But if you have a grommet on there and you're able to put something around it, it will help keep it more in place. Here at our company, we tend to use zip ties. They're a little bit stronger, and that nylon just doesn't give away. So let me go to my next area. This was a different presentation. It was from Manhattan College, and they really love the idea of having pole banners, but they have one major issue. They don't have any poles. So instead of using poles to put up their pole banners, they had freestanding displays. One big thing, though, that I need to talk to you about, we're talking about liability. You have people coming in and out this big doorway. And yes, there are smaller children that might jump up and down around there. You want to make sure that your spectators and visitors are safe. So if you did have something like this, once again, remember what we were just talking about. We were talking about weather. These bases are spring-loaded, so they can give and take a little bit. But at the same point, if it were hit by the storm that we had a few days ago, you saw umbrellas flying through the air, branches flying all over the place, and it may have hit the banner so hard that it wouldn't have had a chance to react with the spring and just bopped it down. It's very important to be thinking of that when you're trying a presentation like this. Now, these banners are literally long pieces of Sintra. You may be aware of Sintra because you've used them for exhibit plaques. It's a thin piece of plastic that you can use for all different things. They usually come in different colors. We tend to use more white and black than most other colors, but you can order them in different colors. This one, they're white, and then they have panels that were printed on a 3M vinyl adhesive that were put on these. So in all honesty, walking up, you would think that these were banners, but they're actually panels of plastic. Here's another type of banner, and boy, is this used a lot. And this would be, in my opinion, something that a lot of museums really could get a lot of exposure from and a lot of use from. This is actually a fence banner. In this application, it was being used to highlight what's going to happen after this construction is completed. But just imagine what you could do with if you have a fence for security around your perimeter. You know, you could highlight a new dinosaur exhibit with a great big long dinosaur going across there. Or if you're trying to talk about in your mission statement or the neat things that this museum can offer, you also could highlight them. Most banners start with a white fabric, so your palette is completely open. You can be as colorful and as blah as you want to be. I just commissioned a construction banner for a company that could care less about what people say. It's an assisted living facility, but all they wanted was to show off their new brand. So their entire construction banner is over 400 square feet in length. It's all going to be a white background with logo. You can even do something like that. By the way, another thing to keep in mind, this banner also will be getting quite of pummeling from the wind. What you can't see from this picture is that this is actually a netted type of fabric, and so the wind is going to be able to whip right through that fabric. Also, there's a little bit of give and take. If you look closely on the right-hand side, you can see a white zip tie, and that's the way it's being kept onto this fence, is that they have on the top and the bottom, they have grommets with white zip ties, and that will keep that on there. And that way we know that the integrity of the fabric will keep going. But there are different densities of the fabric, so if this is a secret and you don't want anybody to know what's going on the other side, or you want to offer your spectators privacy when they go out into a yard and you don't want people to be seeing what they're doing, that depends on the type of fabric that you get. So there are all different types. Next, I want to talk a little bit about signage. This is something that is overlooked sometimes. There are all different types of signs, and once again, weather, keep that in mind when you're looking at your new signage. This sign is for Boscobel. It's a home and gardens, and it was an old home for the Dykeman family. It's in the Hudson River Valley, and it's one of the best examples of Federalist architecture in this area. If you look at the sign, right along the bottom underneath their name, that's why they had that logo there. It's to make sure that people are aware of the type of, the feeling. Their gardens are very formal. And so to me, the sign is very pure, stately, elegant type of a feel to it, and yet not real showy. It doesn't light up at night, but it's enough to let you know. It kind of gives you the feeling of what you're walking into. Now, we're back to our Museum of Sound again. This is a very common type of signage that you would see right as you're getting ready to walk into a building. This is actually printed on a piece of metal. And for those of you that may have seen us at AAM and at NEMA, you may have seen our examples. When you're printing on metal, you can actually print clear right on metal itself. And obviously this is what happened here because you can see the metal shining through. But you can also put a white surface, or any other color for that matter, on the bottom and then print on that white surface. And then it's not so sparkly shiny, but yet you still get that metal feel. On all four corners of this sign, you can see metal circles, and these are called pucks. So this sign, actually, if I were to stand sideways, you would see that you have a red metal base, and then the piece of metal that is printed on with Museum of Sound actually steps away a little bit. This is another way that in your exhibits that you can make a 3D look and to give you some textural interest. The pucks can also be printed to cover so that if you don't want that metal look showing through, that round circular look, you don't have to have it as well. Here's another type of outdoor signage. Once again, it's my famous Museum of Sign. This sign actually in real life does light up, and it's up high on the building. So not only is it letting you know that this is you're walking into quite a colorful museum, but it's also a great advertisement for the building when the museum is closed. One of the things that you could also do is you could change this out. If you wanted to highlight that a new exhibit was coming, you could do this. Not too long ago, I went to Coca-Cola World down in Atlanta, and they had a very similar sign. They were talking about the new personalized Coca-Cola bottles that you can now get printed there for a slight fee, and so they were hyping that. You probably have seen them also in the stores lately, too. It's a big marketing campaign that they're going through right now for Coca-Cola. There again, to them it was worth taking down their sign and putting that up just to highlight what was coming up, a great marketing technique. Another outdoor sign is something that you see around town and is sometimes overlooked, and I really wanted to make sure to talk about this. These A signs are really big when you're looking at restaurants, when you're looking at breweries, when you're looking at retail settings, because they're so easy. You put them together, you take them inside. It's time to open. Unfold them, bring them out, and set them back out on the sidewalk. But something that I wanted to talk to you about, in this case, Tully's Coffee had a great big tent at an outdoor festival, and they wanted people to know that they could go get a free cup of coffee. So they had these all over the place so that you knew, look for Tully's, you'll get a free cup of coffee. One of the museums that I recently worked with decided that they liked the idea, but they didn't want something printed. They wanted to handwrite themselves. So what we did is on that A-frame, we smacked a magnetic panel on there. So first we went with a magnetic substrate on the back. Just, it adheres with tape. It's on there. And then we gave them all different skins. And what you can do is you can have a magnetic panel. It's extremely thin. In fact, with this magnetic substrate, you can put 5 different skins right on top of it. So this museum decided to go ahead and put the magnetic base, and then the first base is a whiteboard. So you could have children, write on there, wipe it off easily. The second skin is a chalkboard skin. So once again, you could write on there with chalk. Just imagine, the tour today starts at 3, meet here. Today's free museum day. There's a lot of things that are quick, fast things you want to put up. And then over that, they have another skin that talks about a new exhibit that is coming. It has not opened yet. So all 3 of those skins can go on there at the same time. The nice thing with about 2 of them is that they can be for temporary uses. Or you could just print a skin to put on that and leave on that. But it really gives you some flexibility and gives you more bang for your buck, because with that A-frame, number 1, you can use it all over the place, but number 2, you have all different uses just with that one presentation. And now let's talk about, we've gone into the parking lot. We've seen the big pole banners. We're excited. We can't wait to get in there. We are walking up. There's an A-frame letting us know that a tour is going to be starting soon. And we enter the museum. And this is the beginning of the fun. So the very first thing that many people see as they come in is that infamous reception desk where you're either giving out information or you're selling tickets, you're giving out the brochures or the maps, or maybe trying to entice for membership. And it is one of the most overlooked areas. It's really, really important for the public to know how much they're going to spend when they come in, and I get that. But at the same point, it doesn't just have to be about the price. It can be around the price. With this Museum of Sound, in all honesty, on the right side, I could definitely put up a panel saying what prices were there. Or even that big trumpet in the back, you could, instead of that, you could put the prices up or put the prices in the schedule for that day. There's all different things you can do, but it's so important. If we've established a brand as you're coming in, it is so important to keep with that as you walk into the museum. Once you enter that door, it shouldn't be all about money, 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 and going the other way. It's important to keep that excitement up. You know, if you walk in, and I'm a mom and I have 2 kids, and God knows I've been through all the different museums in the area, and you walk in and they're so excited, they cannot wait to get in. And you walk in and the first thing you see is all about money. The excitement level that you've built up as you walked in is starting to dwindle, and we don't want that. One of the big misunderstood areas and misused areas, in my feeling, is the floor. When you walk in, look down. What do you see? Okay, I know, muddy feet, especially during the wintertime, but that area should be continuing your branding. It should be continuing the excitement that you've built up. Now, here in my infamous museum, we have a carpet that's cut into the size or into the shape of a record. This presentation, I could do a carpet, a custom carpet, or I could do vinyl sheet flooring. One of the nice things with both of those areas are that they're washable. With vinyl sheet flooring, I don't know how familiar you are with that, but vinyl sheet flooring is printed on the underside. And so you have a clear acrylic finish on the top that helps to protect that artwork, which is really important because, you know, that front door is going to take a lot of wear and tear from your employees and your spectators coming in and out. So it's important to really, really protect that area. With this, what we've done here is we've got a big round carpet that has the museum logo on it, and because it is sound, is in the shape of a record. Many carpet providers can cut to whatever shape you want, as well as vinyl sheet flooring. Any of them can do that as well. It's also important when you are talking to people that you make sure that with the carpet that you are doing the correct grade. There are many, many different grades of carpet out there. In our own company, we only have 3. One of the carpet grades we have in our own showroom. It's been there about 5 years, and it's this big, big printout of the United States, the map of the United States. The color is starting to look a little worn because it's the main area where we walk in and out, in and out. But that carpet can be cleaned by a regular carpet cleaner. It's important to know what you're buying. If I were going to have a carpet for that area, I would go with the highest grade. We have one that is used for a one-night thing. Maybe it's for a big media event at your museum, and you just need a runner to make it look nice. It's great for that night, but you may not get a second use out of it. So it's very important to ask questions when you are getting those quotes. Here is an elevator. I've seen this a lot in the malls, but I have not seen this presentation in a lot of areas. All this is a great big 3M sticker stuck on the elevator doors. One of my coworkers said, they should have done the trombone so that the slide went in and out as the museum door opened and closed, and I agree. It is a great presentation. But think of the things that you could do on an elevator door. And once again, it's a sticker. So you could put it up there for the branding, and then if you have to go upstairs to the big new exhibit that you've been promoting, you could promote it there as well. I did see one museum that had a look like you were walking down into a tomb because they were highlighting a big Egyptian exhibit on a higher floor. So it looked like when you went up to it that you would be walking down, which was it was a great presentation. And once again, it kept the excitement going. Now, I told you this is a fake museum, so don't get too crazy. Not every museum has an escalator in it. But just looking at this, it's just a plain old metal and glass presentation of an escalator. That's all this is. But then on those flat surfaces of the metal, we added on the 3M adhesive once again. Another thing that you could also do is look at the glass panels on either side. You could also add a 3M glass adhesive along there if you wanted to add a little bit more. If you look up at the very top, we're trying to keep that excitement going, and there you have a large wall presentation of of somebody playing a saxophone with the musical notes. If it were my museum, and I really did have carte blanche when it came to what I needed to spend, I think I would have had musical notes going up the side of the escalator too. But you can have fun with this stuff, and the nice thing about this is if this were a temporary situation, you could also use those same adhesives. They will last for a long time. But if you wanted the temporary thing, just think of that excitement that's mounting. By the way, up at the very top of the escalator, I hope you notice also, there are some big hanging banners that are keeping that alive and keeping that marketing going. And this is my all-time favorite. I just love this idea. What stairway wouldn't look awesome with this? Notice we're not covering the safety areas or the safety treads of your stairwell, but the risers themselves, the back, the kick plate. What a great idea. And all this is one long sheet of vinyl adhesive and then just cut for each riser, and then you just put it on the back there. How awesome would that look, right? Now, I keep telling my children, because I'm a big reader at my house, and I keep telling my children that one day they're going to come home and this is going to be their stairwell. Luckily for them, we have carpet right now, so it's not going to happen. But what a great idea. This just goes to show you another application of the same idea with the stair risers. You could have the different years in a timeline leading up to your exhibit. You could have all the different exhibits that are coming up as they go up the stairs. There are so many different things that you could do. This actually I got off of Etsy. They have different stickers that you could go ahead and order to put different book titles. I thought it was a great idea. I just wanted to show you one other option here. When I was showing you the escalator, I didn't call too much attention to it. These are what are called column wraps, and we have done so many of these for special events. Because of my location, we're very close to the city, and many people in New York City will take their foyer or their conference room and transform it into a special event area. And they might have different workshops where they're talking about investing opportunities, etc., and they don't want to invite all these big spenders into an area that is bland and plain, and it's their conference room every day. They want to make it look nicer and more enticing. They want to make it look like they too can make money for their investors. So if you have a column like this, what happens is they first put this gaffing tape around it, and it protects the under layer so it can be peeled off again. And then to that, you could add Velcro, or you could add a two-sided tape that would be taped to that new temporary layer, and it's a nice barrier to protect. Here again, we could use this for permanent or for temporary. But this application that we normally do, we usually do use fabric. And obviously the fabric would be hemmed. And like I said, you could use it with Velcro or with tape. Once again, if this is an investor meeting that is happening every month, these columns could be wrapped every single month. Put Velcro on that, wrap that around the column, press and stick, you're good to go. Oh, time to take everything down. Just unwrap the column, take off that piece of gaffing tape, and you're ready for the next month again. This is used a lot down in the city for special events, this presentation type. And now, what about the rest of your museum? I just thought I would highlight some of the things that are out there and that I know I tend to get a lot of questions when I go to trade shows for the different museums, so I just wanted to highlight. By the way, the museum exhibit that you're looking at right here was at the Knights of Columbus. That's in New Haven, Connecticut. So here I have one of my favorite carpets. The New York Historical Society closed their museum down for almost 3 full years, and they redid every surface. And one of the surfaces that they really wanted to bring to attention was the floor. So they printed all 5 boroughs on carpet. And remember what I said, there are different grades. So, of course, this was the highest grade that we had. It still looks fresh. I went down there not too long ago. Still looks very, very good. But this enabled them to show pride of their location as well as pride of their museum. When you're talking about different museum exhibits, it's important to remember the flooring as well. You want your visitors to feel immersed. You want them to feel like they're a part of this. The New Haven Museum, the Knights of Columbus, they currently have a display up right now about the Irish immigration to the United States after the potato famine, and some of the pieces of work that others have created to show the anguish and the terrible things that these Irish immigrants went through on the coffin ships. And so part of their display is actually a small ship. And you walk up onto the ship and you're looking at some of the artwork, and there's a big mural painted on the wall. Okay. So are we going to have the burger carpet when you walk onto the fake ship? Of course not. You want your spectator to feel like they're a part of this ship. You want them to feel as one with these immigrants that suffered so severely and were sitting next to those that had not made it across the ocean. So what they did was they had vinyl sheet flooring printed, and that's on the bottom of that ship. It's a great presentation, but when you walk on there, A, it's handicap accessible, so you could roll wheelchairs onto that, and B, you're a part of that ship. It's very important. The really great thing about all the different ways that you can print today is that with dye sub and some of our newer ways of printing, it really is a clear, crisp picture. So you really, really can see it adds so much to a display. For those of you that met me at New England Museum Association's conference last year in Portland, Maine, you may have seen us sitting on this carpet. Is this carpet or is this actually cobblestone? This one is real carpet, but you would not be able to tell the difference if I put the 2 pictures up. You really wouldn't. People kept coming up to me and saying, "You brought pavers for your display?" Because we print. And I had to laugh. We print carpet. We're not going to bring pavers. And they were bending over and touching because they couldn't believe how much it really looked real. Use this to your advantage when you're creating your displays. At ShopRite supermarket down in New Jersey, their wine and beer departments were not seeing a lot of traffic. And so they wanted to call attention to the fact that they do have very fresh local wines and beers that they sell there. So they went ahead and they created this 3M adhesive presentation on their windows to show people what they were doing and what they had inside. Their traffic went up 3-fold. You can do the same. it's very important to realize when you're dealing with adhesive window presentations, you can go clear transparent with little musical notes like I talked about on the escalator, to completely blocking out any light, anything from the outside. Obviously here, we're not seeing the shelving on the inside of the grocery store. So in this case, they wanted to block it out. Keep in mind when you are doing that, when you are blocking out visions from outside, you are also blocking out light, so keep that in mind. But that may be an attribute that you want for your display. Or you may want something like this, where here's a seating area in our famous museum, and we didn't want to block that beautiful view from the outside. But at the same point, from the outside looking in, here's yet another area that we can throw our logo up and really show some neat colors on the window. Once again, also, keep in mind, if you've got any kind of a solar block on that window, make sure you check that first. I had a customer that wanted to put a red stripe all the way around their building and keep it going on their windows. What they forgot was they had put on a film to keep the western sun from coming in through the windows and baking their employees. When we went to put it up there, you couldn't even see the bright red stripe on the outside. On the inside, it looked great, but on the outside, not so much. So keep that in mind. That might come to play when you decide if you're going to apply it on the inside or the outside of the glass. And once again, when you are going to apply it on the outside, you have to remember the weather elements and how it's going to fare. Here's a really neat, fun thing to do. These tables are actually printed with that logo on a laminate. When you die sub, once again, it's very clear and crisp. You could put that laminate on a countertop. So remember that price list that I said? Do we really need to see that the minute we walk in right there, or could it be put elsewhere so you could continue branding? You could put that right on the countertop. If the prices are something that tend to change a little bit, maybe not so much, but this is something that you could do throughout the museum. If you are showing different parts of the different dinosaur eras, you could run different footprints or different parts of the dinosaurs, or even each dinosaur on one of these tables in the nearby cafe area to keep that excitement and that momentum going that you created within your display. And then this is one of my favorites. This is the Katona Museum of Art, and they had a really, really neat display inside, and there were polka dots everywhere. So, of course, they have a plain white building, and they wanted to get excitement going for anybody driving up to the museum. On the driveway going in and in the parking lot area, they did have polka dotted pole banners so that people that were coming in were excited. And then you see this great big polka dots. Once again, these are 3M adhesive. They didn't stay up for too long. They stayed up for about 3 months, but the time that they were up, they looked fresh. They stayed up great, and it was very interesting. I actually got to see the installation of this job, and it was really interesting to see how they did it. But what a great use of 3M adhesive to keep it going, and did nothing bad to the museum. Everything was fine. They put it up for 3 months, and they brought it down. This is a museum that we did work for, the Liberty Science Center that you may know more about in New Jersey, also has a sister museum down in Puerto Rico. And they wanted to teach children about the different skeletal bones and where they were placed in the body. What you're looking at is actually a great big magnetic table. And the children are able to take the bones up, mix them all up, and then try and figure out where they go again. I'm quoting a job right now for a old fossil museum out west that they want to do the same thing with some prehistoric horses. And to keep it relevant for children coming in, they want to be able to offer the same kind of service, and the children will be able to come in and try and create a prehistoric horse fossil, same idea. This is printed on Sintra and then put onto a magnetic base. And once again, remember what we talked about with the magnetic. So this is one big skin over a magnetic base. You can use this same substrate over and over again with different magnets if you wanted to. More bang for your buck. This is a step and repeat and is used a lot in media events. I know you've seen it on red carpet events on television stuff, but with the millennials trying to get people to come into our museums and trying to get that selfie time, you don't have to go over and over and over again with your logos. What you could do is go ahead and change this up. Sorry, I hate to bring it up again, but what about Pokemon Go? Pikachu is one of the hardest Pokemon to find around. What if you had a life-size Pikachu and a few of the other Pokemon on the back so that when your younger visitors come in looking for Pokemon as they're leaving, they could then go ahead and do selfies using your backdrop. There are all different uses for a backdrop. There really are. And once again, most fabrics are started with white. So your imagination can go as far as you want when you're printing up one of these backdrops. You also can print in front a runner or a carpet mat or even a vinyl sheet flooring piece there that can carry that on as well. The Denver Museum of Art had this great big exhibit that they wanted to bring up, and it was all these big overblown roses and flowers and all kinds of floral presentations on these big canvases. But they also wanted people to have time to look at each painting individually and not have the other rooms calling to them. So what they did was they used bits and pieces from these different great big landscapes and blew them up onto these panels of fabric. This is another type of banner. Now, as you can see through that panel on the left-hand side. So they wanted some light to come through. They didn't want to block all the light, but at the same point, they wanted to give privacy to the people that were looking at each painting one by one. They had 4 different panels that they had printed up, and I thought this was such a great use as a temporary block, because once this display was over, then they would go on to then offer different, a different footpath for their patrons. Here's another use, fabric. Why not put it on the wall? You could put fabric on the wall just as easily as you can a 3M adhesive or a custom wallpaper. This is a great big piece of fabric, and then on the back, on the front is mounted this framed piece with a speaker in it. Yes, this is made up, but I have seen presentations like this in museums, especially in your exhibits. If you're worried about putting up a 3M adhesive, a fabric is a perfect example. Just like a column wrap, you could put the gaffing tape up and then put the double-sided tape, and it would not mar or destroy the finish behind this exhibit. And I thought you would enjoy this too. This is a piece of vinyl sheet flooring. When I first started here, I went ahead and put out this email blast, and I cut real close to this piece of flooring and said, is it real or is it water? Are you afraid when you stand next to it that your feet are going to get wet? One of a nearby museum actually quoted us to throw a whole bunch of locks on the floor for the lock museum and wanted to put that on their flooring so that when you walked into the lock museum, it looked like some of the locks had fallen down and were on the floor. I thought it was a great presentation. And then, I'm sorry, I'm having troubles with my... And then this is another presentation showing you, this is Marley flooring. And it was, you can't see it too clearly here, but it's a great big overblown rose. And the Gotham Chamber Opera were going to be performing outside in the Botanical Garden. And so they wanted to go with the theme of the garden, having different flowers. So this was a great big piece of Marley flooring. It was actually printed in 2 big pieces and then put onto the stage so that it looked like it was part of the garden around. And this also, believe it or not, is a piece of vinyl sheet flooring. Yes, it's dirt, but just think of the possibilities when you're looking at your exhibit so that it really immerses the customer in. I'm seeing more and more a lot of our museums are using vehicle wraps. The latest figure is saying that if this vehicle is driven around town, or especially on the interstates, that you are getting 30 to 70,000 views a day. That's amazing. Obviously, this is Jim Source. It's not a museum, but I wanted to show you some of the different presentations. You can do this on trucks, you can use vans, you can use vehicles. If you go to the Eric Carle Museum right now, my favorite book is out front on a little VW Beetle. They have the Hungry Caterpillar in a vehicle wrap right in front of the building. It's a great presentation. And something that's really exciting here at our company is that we're going to be printing I'm sorry, I went totally blank. We're going to be able to do metallic inks as well as pearlescent inks. And this, I can just imagine some of your exhibit plaques, instead of having the plain old black or the plain old white, what if you use copper or gold? It would just add so much of a feeling, especially if you were talking in looking at jewels, different jewels in a museum of natural history. Think of possibilities. Here they're showing, this is from the manufacturer, the ink, and they're showing a window graphic that had the metallic attributes to it. So I hope I've helped you some today. I didn't want this to be an advertisement for myself because that's not what it's about. It's trying to open your eyes. You know, just like when I walked up to the Eric Carle Museum a month ago and I saw that Hungry Caterpillar, I thought, what a fantastic idea outside of that museum. When children are walking up to that museum, they see that and they can't help but get excited. As a mom who read that book and wore out 2 copies, I really got excited to see the Hungry Caterpillar on a big vehicle out front. You know, there's an HGTV show that I used to watch, and they would say when you're selling your home, walk into your home as if you're the one who's going to be buying. What's the first thing that you see? Is it the dent in the wall that you really should do something about? Is it the old orange shag carpet left over from the 70s? Maybe that should go its way. When you walk into a museum, look and see what you have standing in front of you. Look at it from the visitor's viewpoint, and I think you might change things up a little bit. So I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, getting to talk with all of you. I will be sending you out an email with my information on it. I can send you some samples and things just so that when you're talking to your vendors, that you have something in front of you so that you can talk like you know what you're talking about, or that you'll be able to see the difference between a fabric that you can see through versus not. It just helps when you know a little bit more when you're trying to estimate out these jobs. So my very best to all of you, and thank you so much for attending.
Thanks, Lynn. I just wanted to ask quick questions if anybody that is here today, if you guys do have any questions, if you want to type them in the chat feature, or you can always contact Lynn afterwards. She's also going to be doing a demonstration station at the conference with actual samples. See some of those things that you're talking about and stuff. That was going to be pretty cool.
Yes.
So how removable is the vinyl adhesive?
It's very removable unless it's been outside in the sun. Then we're talking about a whole different ball game. Inside, it is very removable. If you're worried about putting it on a surface that is historic, etc., then you may want to put another layer on there first. But it is very removable.
Madeline's actually from a garden, so.
Yeah. Oh. Well.
Yeah.
You like that Marley flooring. No, but that is it. You know, the 3M adhesive, they've gotten a lot better with that. Once again, that starts with white, so you could go with whatever you want. We've been working on some of the amusement rides that are going to be coming up soon with Disney and Universal, and some of those backgrounds are done with 3M adhesive. And, it's amazing the different things that you can do. I'm working right now with an office that looks out to a brick wall. And their conference room is boring. So they've got like a rice paper 3M adhesive that we're going to be putting up. It looks classy, lets light in, but you can't see the bricks.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
Either doing something about the bricks on the other side.
Oh, yes, definitely so.
Can you recommend any vendors for the products shown? Probably yourself would be a good one.
Definitely myself. But you know what? I'm going to be very open with you, Allison. NEMA is without a doubt one of the best organizations when it comes to sharing ideas back and forth, and I am a major LinkedIn proponent. I think I finally am over 2,500 LinkedIn connections right now, and I have to be honest with you, I look at this as I want to answer for other people. If I have an old historic house and their budget is negative $10 for their marketing, you know what? I understand. It's hard. But I have found so many great ideas and so many great company names just through LinkedIn and through NEMA and AAM's presence there. So try and get into as many different chat rooms as you can with both NEMA and AAM. They really are fantastic in giving out information. And if you ever need anything from me, or if you can't find something, I like to keep like a Rolodex going of other names too. So don't be afraid to reach out. I'm not going to throw my company down your throat. I don't do that. It's all about helping out each other. That's what we're supposed to do.
Allison, that's what NEMA has a museum marketplace
yes.
on our website, and we also have a discussion list, so occasionally things like this will come up of like, hey, do you have a suggestion for a vendor and stuff like that, and so people can get back to you if they have someone that they prefer. So that's another method, too, of looking for different vendors and stuff like that. But we are after the 1 o'clock hour, so I just want to say thank you, Lynn, for presenting today, and thank you, everybody, for joining us on this hot and humid July day. And I hope that you'll be able to join us for the August one. We'll be talking about putting historic houses to bed for the winter. It's a little warm today to be thinking about that, but it's going to come up soon. So thanks, everybody, and I hope to see you in August. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.